going out, everyone? Glad we all made it for the end of the year. Know we got holidays coming up, so you're really committed to real estate investing is what I'm hearing by your commitment here. My name is Tanner. Ryan's the other guy that's usually here. We are the hosts of the real estate meetup. It's called the House Hacker Mafia. We usually meet 2 times every single month on the second and fourth Thursday. We might be making some changes to that in the future and possibly a different location. So make sure you do sign up or follow us on meetup.com and Facebook. Definitely check out all that information that's coming up in the future. So today, we're going to talk about a survey that I did about a real estate portfolio tactics on risk versus profitability levels and kind of what each strategy is going to be looking like and what's going to work well for you, because everyone's situation is different based off of what you're looking to do. So we'll get right into it.
In real estate, first impressions can make or break a deal. Whether you're listing a home for sale or marketing an investment property, having high quality photos are key at grabbing attention. If you want to stand out in the competitive Colorado Springs market, having high quality photos is essential. And Wayne over at Homadi excels at getting the best possible photos for your property. He is based right here in Colorado Springs and specializes in capturing properties in the best light. If you're ready to take your property photos to the next level, make sure to contact Wayne over at Homadi and mention you heard about him from Tanner at Red and Joy Real Estate to get 20% off your next shoot. Remember, great photos can make the difference between a quick sale and a stale listing. So make sure to contact Wayne over at Homadi today.
So I did a study. You may have seen it on Facebook. Raise your hands of who took a survey that I sent out recently. 2 people. Wow, those are bad numbers. Well, we only got about 40 people to take it anyways, but they're all investors. So it was a good pool of just people that I knew all here in Colorado giving good information about what they thought was going on and how they felt was going on in the real estate market. So the big questions that we were asking is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is the profitability level that you are seeing for long-term rentals, for example? And then we also did the same thing for the risk level of that property. And we have a huge list of properties. There are 18 of them total. Everything from residential, a little bit of commercial stuff as well, some creative things with mobile homes and RVs. The one that isn't on here that I wanted to add was wholesaling, which is kind of similar to fix and flipping, but with a little bit of a twist. So maybe next year, we'll take the survey again. And then everyone here can take it and we'll get those numbers up. So of the 40 people, this is a little pie chart of who was taking the survey. We had about 60% were of 2 or more property owners. Like they had 2 properties, they probably house hacked one or bought one, then moved on and did the other one. So we had good results of people that had experience within real estate. And 7 people are just learning kind of since they're new, they don't know a lot about real estate. And so getting their understanding of what they fear with like short-term rentals and co-living, what they feel about that, definitely showed some good results in the survey answers. So this is going to be the profitability levels. I hope it's big enough. I tried to make it as max as it was. So the pink ones are going to be very low profitability. The red ones are going to be very high profitability. So we got short-term rentals, co-living. This is large multifamily, and assisted living and fix and flip are very high on the profitability scale. And then long-term rentals, office, and land were very low on the profitability scale. So some of the ones that we're going to talk about, and this is how I ranked them on the scale of 1 to 10. 4.69 is what long-term rental is at, and then all the way up to in the high 7s for fix and flips. So if you have one specifically you're looking at, feel free to take a photo or I can send it to you later. But we're going to talk about long-term rentals, and the reason why they don't really work in Colorado is because it's very hard to make the numbers work, and the rents haven't quite caught up to what mortgages are for interest rates. So if you're going to do a straight long-term rental, you're going to have to do a heavy amount down, or you have to have it for a longer period of time in order for those numbers to make sense. But day to day, it is a lot easier to manage a long-term rental compared to a short-term rental. Assisted living is one that's very unique. It is very high on the profitability scale. I know a few people that are into this space. I think a lot of the more experienced investors, they look more future-facing, and a lot of boomers are kind of getting towards the later part of their life, and so they're going into assisted care, living type facilities. And there's tons of them, so we need those types of facilities. And that's why a lot of people are projecting that assisted living could be a new asset class to be getting into. House hacking, very low money down to enter, and it's pretty solid on the profitability scale, right there in the middle. I'd say anything that's like over 5 is pretty solid for profitability, and under 5 is on the lower range, I would say. Next, we're going to look at the risk levels. We have long-term rentals, which is very low risk, as well as co-living, house hacking, small multifamily. Co-living was a little bit higher than some of these other ones that are on here, but I wanted to talk about it because I feel like a lot of people that don't know much about co-living tend to think it's going to be a lot more risk of having more people in one property. But if you think of the aspect of if you have 4 units and you have multiple people paying a mortgage or towards the mortgage, and you lose one, you still have 3 out of the 4. Kind of like on a fourplex. If you lose one tenant in a transition, you still have 3 out of the 4. Very similar to co-living, just a lot smaller and just one person, and lower rent as well, because people aren't going to be affording a 1-bedroom place. They're going to be able to afford a 1-bedroom shared type living space instead of like a studio type of thing. Some of the ones are on the very high risk level. Short-term rental, which if you remember was very, very high up on the profitability scale. And a big part of the risk levels is hospitality business is very, very tricky to get into, do it correctly as well. With you have cleaning, you have guest communications, and all those sorts of things. Plus you have to have the upfront cost for furniture too. Office and retail are also in the very high risk levels. Those two, I would say, for the commercial space, which we're going to have someone probably at the first meetup in January come out and talk about commercial. She does industrial real estate here in town, but knows about commercial stuff. So if you please come out to that one. But for office and retail, a lot of people are afraid because people are all working from home, not going into the office. So that's kind of the challenge that you have with that space. And then fix and flips over there on the side for very high risk levels. And everyone and their grandma loves to try and do a fix and flip, which is great because you're very like, yes, I want to get into real estate. I've heard about fix and flips. It's going to do great. But when you put the aspect into you don't know anything about rehabs, you don't know anything about getting money, how to sell a property because you have a certain time limit before you're going to be losing money with your monthly payments because you're doing hard money or you're borrowing something at very high costs. That's kind of the very high risk levels that you're going to be getting into there. So for the risk levels, here again is all of it down from lowest all the way to the highest. House hacking at a 2.65, which is the lowest of anything that we've seen, and has a pretty big gap between what long-term rentals and small multifamilies are coming into at the 3 range. Assisted living, we talked about earlier. Lots of boomers are getting into this stage, and it kind of falls kind of right in the middle, but it is under a 5, so you can see how those risk levels are a little bit lower because there's going to be more possible tenants that are going to be looking into the assisted living asset class or to live in one. And then the last one, co-living, which we talked about earlier, being very affordable. It's more of like the entry level for when you move a place. Like, at least I can afford a bedroom if I can't afford like a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom place. There should be one more slide here. Oh yeah, there we go. This is my favorite one, I would say. So the red is the profit level, blue is the risk level. You can see with short-term rentals right here, the risk level is very high, and the amount of profit that you're going to make is going to be very high as well, but there's a slim gap that you really got to land in. And there are ways to land in that gap: experience, knowledge, partnering with someone with those items, finding a damn good deal, that would probably help too. With house hacking, this is a huge gap for risk level and the amount of profit that you can make. So I would say house hacking is probably the best way to get started. That's low risk, and you can still make a solid profit. We're not going for a home run. We're just getting for maybe a double or a base hit would work out great. Over in office and retail, you can see the risk levels expand what the profit level would be. So if you're going to do something in that, you're probably going to want to have a really, really good deal or have a lot of knowledge or maybe place a really good bet on the future that I'm really going to nail it in office. I can see what the future is telling, and you talked with Elon Musk or something that might be able to help out with that one. And then with land, that's assisted living again right there, which is very similar to sober living, by the way, kind of creating a community around sober living or old people, I guess. But a pretty good gap right there. And the last one on the side is going to be fix and flips, where very similar to short-term rentals, you have a very thin gap that you're trying to land into with that window. So you really got to nail down how you're doing your financing, how you're going to find the deal, your rehab costs. I think that's the biggest thing, is not knowing what the rehab costs are going to be. So if you can partner up with a contractor that specializes in doing fix and flips, and it's like, yeah, if you bring me a deal that is pretty good range, and he might want to make a little bit more, and you just make a little bit, and you get to learn from him. That could be a good way to get into the fix and flip space. So the key takeaways: house hacking. Who can say what house hacking's best takeaway was? Raise your hands, or else I'm going to call on you. There he is. There you go. There you go. Low risk, high profit. That's why house hacking's the best, and why a lot of people get started in house hacking. Low risk, high profit.
If you're planning to get photos done on your next listing or rental property, don't forget to reach out to Wayne with Homani to get 20% off your next shoot.
Yeah. So with house hacking, you're going to be living in the property, and ideally, house hacking is going to be renting out all the bedrooms, similar to co-living. So you're basically getting more of those mortgage payments, plus your additional one where you're living in the area, so that you have a lower rent expense, is kind of the goal with house hacking. You can also do this with a duplex, house and cottage, or like a fourplex, to where you're living in one space, and ideally all the rents will cover what your mortgage is, so that you're living for free, which is why it's very low risk, because even if you lose one, well, you know what, I can still pay rent this month on this tenant transition, is what the idea behind it would be. So creating your portfolio around the risk and profit levels that we've just seen. Everyone's different. You're going to be, just getting started, a newbie, want to start at the low risk levels. And once you get one and look to do a little bit more experienced stuff, then you can jump around and I'm going to do something that's a little bit more risky, has a little bit more profit, because I feel like I'm ready for taking that leap and that jump. And the great thing about house hacking is that you can combo it with a few of the other strategies in here. So you can start out house hacking, living in the property, and then when you move out, you can turn it into a co-living space, which is the best way, and what you're going to want to do for any real estate investment, is know what your exit strategy will be. And so start with house hacking, move out, and then turn it to full-time co-living, and just run the numbers when you buy it as co-living, so that you know that this strategy works. And then similar to if you have a duplex and you want to move out, and does it make sense doing long-term rentals in this space once I move out? Or am I going to have to live here for 2 to 3 years in order for the rents to catch up? Because as we saw, long-term rentals weren't the most profitable. And so you might not be making a ton of money, might be losing money here in Colorado if you do the long-term strategy once house hacking in it first. Or maybe short-term rental is what you want to go into. And I find that of all those strategies, house hacking comboed with co-living, and then comboed with midterm rentals, I would say would be the best ones, just because most duplexes here in town are going to be on the smaller side of 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 3-bedroom, 1-bath. And with short-term rentals, there's so much supply of that style of property. You're going to want to have something that's a lot larger, 4, 5, 6 bedrooms in the current market to kind of stand out. You can definitely make it work with 1 to 3 bedroom range. It's just not what we see is the most profitable to make sense with where the numbers are at. But with midterm rentals, they're kind of a little sneaky strategy, where I know people that are doing them. We have a podcast, by the way, episodes coming out next week of midterm rentals, so you can learn more about that. But people don't market them a whole lot, and so it is on Airbnb, so they get kind of hidden for where midterm rentals are. And people are still looking for that space of 30 days, 60 days in that monthly range. So you can kind of be a little bit different than a lot of the short-term people out there. And yeah, that was the counteracting with high-risk strategies. So are there any questions or anything? That's the podcast, but by the way, if anyone wants to check it out, Spotify and YouTube. And yeah. Any thoughts? Yes.
Yeah, Tanner. So I took the survey. One thing I actually appreciated was simply forever to fill it out. And part of that was kind of you did leave it to whoever was responding to kind of interpret risk as they saw it, rather than go into some long-winded explanation of what risk means to you. You just said risk, right? So with that, again, I think everyone probably interpret that a little bit different, which is okay. I think it gives like a good sense of like what that risk is. I definitely, after hearing this spiel, kind of see it more now risk in the sense of like profit risk. Um, and finally, I would be curious if anyone that took the survey was thinking of risk in some regards as more like, hey, the risk of things just going bad. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a house hacking, right? You deal with crappy roommates, they got to fix or your relationship, all that. So, but yeah, I really like how you constructed the survey. That was simple, straight to the point, and you try to create ridiculous scientific facts out of it.
Yeah, I would say with risk, that's what most people would think about is what is going to go wrong. And that's what most people in real estate do is what problems am I going to come up with this investment strategy. And with each one, if you kind of do that, what problems am I going to have for long-term rentals and short-term rentals, and kind of do the pros and cons for each one to figure out, is this something I'm willing to manage myself, or am I going to want to have someone else manage this for me because I don't want to do the cleaning, talk to guests every single day. There's a maintenance issue today, and then there's a sewer issue tomorrow, and all these things. With long term, it's a lot more like, hey, you get a good person in up front, and then it's just they're good to go, and you talk to them maybe in a month or two when there's a dishwasher issue, and you're like, yeah, call my maintenance guy, and then he deals with it, type of thing. So.
Yeah, I think that is a good point. I'm the second person to survey. Yeah, I think there's different types of risk, for the different types of assets. Like for example, the short-term rental. I think there's more like legal risk with that, right? Like the city or whatever. Or like the fix and flips. It's more like a market risk because it's so short term. Like if market turns and value dropping in a long term. So I think there are like different types of risk. Yeah. I think with the way you did it, though, you constructed it, every person, regardless of whatever they thought risk was and how broad or narrow it was, the questions were the same for everything. Right? So like, where someone that's scared about just the sky falling, or someone just only cares about making money, we were able to kind of think through each of those individually and say, okay, here's what I think about the whole trade space. So yeah, well done.
Cool. Any other questions? Yeah.
Did you try to correlate the experience level of the person taking the survey with their responses? Like,
yeah, so I looked into that. There was a decent amount to do it. It just would have taken a lot of time to do it, and I did have a month to do it. But I just wasn't that committed to doing all of that. So yeah. Any other questions?
I just didn't hear you mention Furnish Finder at all. Do you use that for midterm rentals?
I don't have any midterm rentals currently. I did have a midterm rental. It was just a bedroom rental when I lived in it in House Hacked. It worked okay. Mainly a lot of people on Furnish Finder are looking for their own space, not a shared space. So a lot of like 1, 2, 3 bedroom spaces work best. But people that do midterm rentals use Furnish Finder a lot. Yeah.
What's the timeline associated with
it? I'd say 1 to 4 on average. It could be, start at 4 and then they're like, I want to renew, and I go to 6 or 8 or 12. I've heard that happens sometimes with people. So, but in that 4 month, 1 to 4 is most common. Any other questions? No? Cool. Well, we have about 40-ish, or not, sorry, about an hour or so of more networking. So make sure you talk to everyone, get some phone numbers, sign in too, so you can hear about the future meetups that are going on. And the best part of coming to meetups is networking with other investors. Because I mean, this stuff is cool. I'm great to look at and everything, but you know, to talk to everyone else, because that's where you're really going to make those connections, learn more about real estate, and get into the nitty gritty of what you can do to kind of grow your portfolio, learn things from everyone. So yeah, thanks for coming out. January 9th will be our next real estate meetup, the second Thursday, about commercial real estate. So come and check it out. Thank you.